What 70s kids had, that money can't buy. Right now, billionaires are spending millions trying to give their children something you already have. They're hiring play consultants, building adventure playgrounds, and creating digital detox retreats. And none of it works, because what you grew up with in the 1970s wasn't a product. It wasn't a service. It was a specific set of conditions that accidentally created the most resilient generation in modern history. And those conditions? They're gone forever. But here's the thing nobody talks about. You carry something inside you that was forged in those years, something invisible, something unbreakable. And today, I'm going to show you exactly what that is, and why your grandchildren will never have it, no matter how much money their parents spend. If you grew up in the 1970s, you remember a world that sounds like fiction to anyone born after 1990. You left your house in the morning. Your mom didn't know exactly where you were. There was no phone in your pocket, no tracking device, no way for anyone to reach you until the streetlights came on or someone rang the dinner bell. And here's what's crazy. Your parents weren't negligent. They weren't careless. That was just normal. Every kid on your block lived the same way. You probably don't think about this much anymore. It's just your childhood. But I need you to understand something. What you experienced wasn't just the way things were. It was a perfect storm of psychological conditions that shaped your brain in ways scientists are only now beginning to understand. So, what exactly did you have? Let me show you. And I promise, by the end of this video, you'll understand why everything you survived made you into someone that today's world desperately needs but can no longer create. The first thing you had that money can't buy. Unsupervised time. Not free time, not recess, unsupervised time. Hours and hours where no adult knew what you were doing, where you were doing it, or who you were doing it with. Think about that for a second. When was the last time a child in 2024 spent 4 consecutive hours with 0 adult oversight? For most kids today, the answer is never. Their entire existence is scheduled, monitored, tracked, and optimized. But you? You had entire summers where you disappeared into the neighborhood like a ghost. You built forts with materials you found. You made up games with rules you invented. You solved conflicts without adults intervening. You got hurt, and you figured out what to do about it. Here's what was happening in your brain during those hours. Your prefrontal cortex was learning to assess risk without someone telling you what was dangerous. Your social intelligence was developing through real conflict and real resolution. Your creativity was exploding because there was no adult structuring your play. Modern parents call what you did free-range parenting. Back then, it was just called Tuesday. And the psychological research is devastating for today's kids. Unsupervised play is where children learn to regulate emotions, assess danger, build genuine friendships, and develop what psychologists call internal locus of control, the belief that you are in charge of your own life. You got thousands of hours of this training. Today's children get almost none. That's the first thing money can't buy. Because you can't purchase a world where it's safe and normal for kids to roam free. That world is extinct. You know what's strange? Most of you probably never thought of your childhood as anything special. You might even remember being bored sometimes, wishing you had more. But that boredom, that was a feature, not a bug. Which brings me to the second gift. The second thing you had that money can't buy. Real, unrelenting, excruciating boredom. I know. It sounds ridiculous. How is boredom a gift? But listen to me carefully. In the 1970s, when you were bored, there was no escape hatch. There was no device to pick up, no infinite scroll to fall into, no on-demand entertainment to rescue you. When you were bored, you had exactly 2 choices. Stay bored or make something happen. So what did you do? You invented games. You explored. You read books because there was literally nothing else to do. You talked to the weird neighbor. You learned to play an instrument badly. You took things apart to see how they worked. Neuroscientists have a term for what boredom does to the developing brain. It activates the default mode network. This is the part of your brain responsible for imagination, self-reflection, and creativity. When there's no external stimulation, your brain turns inward and starts creating. Today's children never enter this state. They are stimulated every waking moment. The default mode network never activates. They are, quite literally, being robbed of their inner world. But you? Your inner world had years to develop. That's where your resilience lives. That's where your problem-solving skills were born. That's the psychological bedrock that nothing can shake, because it was built when there was nothing else to distract you from building it. Every wealthy parent in Silicon Valley is now terrified of what screens are doing to their kids' brains. They're paying thousands for device-free camps and analog experiences, but they can't recreate what you had. Because 1970s boredom wasn't just the absence of devices. It was the presence of a world where boredom was normal, universal, and unavoidable. Where every kid on your block was equally bored, which meant you were bored together, and that changed everything. Now these first two gifts, unsupervised time and boredom, they're the foundation. But there's something else you had. Something harder to name. Something that every generation before you also had, but you were the last ones to get it in full. And when I tell you what it is, you're going to feel it in your chest. Because you know exactly what I'm talking about, even if you've never put it into words. The third thing you had that money can't buy. Analog danger. Real, physical, consequential danger. You climbed trees with branches that could break. You rode your bike down hills without a helmet. You played lawn darts, actual metal spikes launched into the air. You had chemistry sets that could genuinely create explosions. You built ramps and jumped things and crashed and bled and got back up. You probably have a scar somewhere on your body right now from your childhood. Something you survived. Something that taught you, in a visceral, physical way, that actions have consequences, and that you're tougher than you thought. Here's the psychology. When children experience manageable risk and survive, their brain learns that danger can be assessed and navigated. They develop what researchers call calibrated confidence. They know their limits because they've tested them. They trust themselves because they've proven themselves. Today's children live in a bubble-wrapped world. Playgrounds are designed so it's nearly impossible to get hurt. Every sharp corner is padded. Every activity is supervised. Every risk is eliminated. And the result? A generation with crippling anxiety. Not because they've faced too much danger, but because they've faced too little. They don't trust themselves because they've never had to. But you? You know, in your bones, that you can handle hard things. Because you handled hard things when you were 8 years old. You fell out of a tree and lived. You crashed your bike and got up. You had experiences that taught you, in a way no words ever could, I can survive this. That knowledge doesn't come from a book. It doesn't come from therapy. It doesn't come from a parenting consultant. It comes from lived experience, and that experience is no longer available at any price. But I saved the most important gift for last, because there's something that ties all of this together. Something that made all the unsupervised time, all the boredom, all the danger, meaningful. The fourth thing you had that money can't buy. A childhood that ended. In the 1970s, childhood was a distinct phase of life with a clear boundary. There was kid stuff, and there was adult stuff. And at some point, you crossed over. You got responsibilities. You got a job. You were expected to handle things. That transition, that clear line between childhood and adulthood, gave everything before it weight. Your childhood wasn't infinite. It was precious because it was finite. Every summer mattered because you knew even as a kid that this wouldn't last forever. Today, that line is gone. People in their 30s still call themselves kids. Adolescence stretches into the late 20s. There's no clear moment when childhood ends and real life begins. And here's what that means. Today's children don't have a childhood that will become precious memories. They have an extended holding pattern. They have a slow fade. They have nothing to look back on and say, that was magic, and it's gone now, but you do. You have a clear before and after. You have a childhood that exists in a different world, a world that ended definitively and can never be recreated. And that ending is what makes it sacred. That's the thing money can't buy. not the experiences themselves, but the finality of them. The knowledge that you witnessed something that is now gone from the earth. You are a living archive of a vanished world, and everything you learned in that world is still inside you, shaping who you are every single day. So the next time someone asks what was so special about growing up in the 70s, or the next time you wonder if your childhood was really that different, remember this: you had unsupervised time that built your independence. You had boredom that built your imagination. You had danger that built your confidence. And you had a childhood that ended, which made it mean something. These aren't just memories. They're psychological architecture. They're the foundation of who you are. And they're worth more than anything money can buy. If this video brought back memories of your childhood, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button. And if you want to see more content like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments. What do you miss most about the 70s?